Guys and dolls, so it's late. Got a really busy day tomorrow, and I've got a video for you. Now it's a wee video that I done about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Um, it's in Scotland, and just out walking my dog. And I know I've got a lot of new subscribers, and just thought this was an important video. One of my friends pointed it out to me. It only had 300 views. He says that video deserves more than 300 views. So like I say, it's just me and my opinions, what I mean? Don't take offence of anything when a couple of wee bits where I talk about the Irish and, it is a joke, you know what I mean? It's like, just what's going on, you know what I mean? This is before it went to Dublin and Limerick and everything and understood everything that was going on properly. But I'm not cutting nothing out. I mean, like, I cut stuff out and, cut it all down to size, but it's just raw, you know what I mean? It's always just raw with me, guys. It's just what's in my head. And, like I say, it's quite late. Went on the phone, seeing people. Everything's good. I'm just tired, everything's good. So I'm speaking to some amazing people. So I am. A lot of my friends are worried about me because of stuff that's going about online from I don't know what to call them. You know what I mean? It's just hateful people. You know what I mean? Not on from my community, from Catholic community. And like, it's a very small, tiny, minute. They do not represent the community. Any Catholic community, they do not represent any Catholics at all, I don't think. And I haven't looked at it. I'm not interested. I'm not going to put his name out there or any other names out there. I'm not. I'm like I say. This is the way I work. I'm not interested. I don't need to put nothing in my head. I mean, I've got enough in my head right now. Without listening to some header that for some reason wants to, like, make things dangerous for me, because it's not difficult. It's just dangerous. Just dangerous. But we're used to dangerous, unfortunately, in this country, and um, it's just part and parcel, and what do I do? Do I do a video and go, what's getting a bit dangerous for my lucky to look back on? Maybe Lucky looks back and find out what our dad done to prevent what could be coming in 20, 30, 40 years' time. She looks back and she says, "Oh God, it was getting a bit dangerous, so my dad sacked it." It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. At the end of the day, I've got faith in my community. When I say my community, I'm talking about my Freedom Dad community. You know, um, I've got faith in the Patriots in Ireland. I've got faith in the Patriots in Northern Ireland from both religions, and I get so much love and support from all around that these little small threats that I'm getting, and the red dot on the head and the target, whatever, that's life. That's life. I understand how dangerous this is. I understand, that the establishment are very, very unhappy with what's going on in Northern Ireland because, like I say, it's the opposite to what they want. They want to divide us all. We're coming together. It's a difficult situation for people like me. They are a very dangerous organisation, the government. We've seen so much collusion in this country and the dirty tricks and how they use people on both sides of our community to gain the goals that they want politically. And we might see this happen again as we go forward, trying to sort all this out in a human way, and in a Christian way as well. Because we're not haters and we're not racist, we're not far right. We're just trying to make sense of it all. You know what I mean? And we're scared. We're scared of what's going on in England. And there's two ways about it. When you see the kind of things, and the kind of things that I've got in my head of what's happened to some of these girls, please believe me, you'd be more than scared. And you can research it. You can look at the transcripts from the court cases that are there to be looked at. My advice is, if you're dealing with PTSD, any abuse in your life, I wouldn't go near it, you know. It's one of my worst things I've ever heard happen to children in my life. Nothing's ever came close to it, you know. And with that kind of thing, with people that's awake, all the patriots, Catholics and Protestants that know these things, yeah, they're worried. And with that worry comes the label far right racists, you know. And this is when we've got to be strong. I know how difficult this is, you know. Please believe me, when you put your head above the parapet, you gotta can be very careful. And you know, we in this country, we've always been quite strong, and that's why we've been divided for so long, because we've been so bloody stubborn. You know what I mean? But we're just a strong bunch of people, Northern Irish and Irish, call it fighting Irish. You know what I mean? Never forget that. Enjoy this video. I know this is going to be a long one. Not everybody's going to watch it, but I implore you, watch it, guys, and then tell your friends. This is for your kids and for your grandchildren. Understand what's going on, or we're never going to get anywhere. God bless, guys. The main characters in the horror show that we see going on in England, that's how they're managing to do what they're doing, and it's quite as brutal and as simple as this. These are kids, girls that are looking for father figures. They're looking for somebody to love them. They're wanting somebody to give them attention. And they truly believe that the people, because they are smiling and giving them free food, that they're truly, really, genuinely nice people. Because if these people are groomers, these people, as soon as they see that child, the first thing they think of is abusing that child. That's the first thing that comes into their mind. As soon as that child comes into their visual sight for the first time ever, the first thought that comes to their head is abuse. So we know that because of no parents, because there's no father figure, they're leaving themselves wide open. They're constantly looking for that father figure, and it becomes a cropper for them. You know what I mean? And it's horrific when you really want it. When you can't. Don't even think about it, because it's no good. It's definitely no good for the soul. Because there's no justice, guys. No justice. These girls have got no justice. These men are walking about the streets now, so they are. Some of these men are still targeting girls, still hanging about primary schools and secondary schools, roaming the streets in their taxis, looking for vulnerable kids that are out late at night. You see them, the kids that run away. I fucking don't want to stay here no more. 14, 15-year-olds, and they run off. And anything's better than their parents. Their parents are bad because the parents are trying to keep them safe. The parents are keeping them in. The parents aren't letting them go to stay at their mate's house. The parents aren't letting them wear the makeup and all the rest of it. So the parents are bad. The parents aren't letting them drink. And then all of a sudden, this really nice smiling man who's so kind and generous and giving me all this lovely free food, that I'm lucky to get off my parents once a month, a wee takeaway. And there it's there, as much as I want. Then it's round the back. Come on in the back. You want a wee drink? When they're drunk, that's when they get them on the heroin. Because even some of these children know not to take that stuff, But when they're drunk, as you know, like most people, when they get drunk, they don't have their senses about them. And that's when they introduce them to heroin. And they'll send them on their way. They'll send them on their way. And then they come back because they want some more heroin. And, they've got a habit. And once that happens, that's them. That's these men have now got the green light to do whatever they want, because in their eyes and in their world, that all they've done is give her drink and drugs. They haven't touched her. These are the ones coming back and wanting to buy drugs, and we're telling her, well, if you no money, you know what I mean? So you can see where it goes and how it goes,
And it's textbook. In every case, textbook. That there is textbook, you know. And we have the solutions and stuff like that. We know who the victims are, we know who the perpetrators are, we know the motives, and we know the method, you know. Never in my life have I seen crime like this get committed. With all them things I've just said, the motive and the method, the victims and the predators, and yet nothing's done about it. It's quite remarkable, isn't it? Could you imagine if it was a spate of bank robberies? Do you know how hard they went after me? Because I robbed 5 banks in Scotland. Do you know how hard they went after me and how hard they pushed that? And the length they went to get me in jail. And the length they went to get me convicted. And that was just me stealing money. Never hurt anybody. I've scared a few people, but never actually hurt anybody, guys, you know. And yeah, I'm not going to get into it, you know. I know my faults, you know. I know. I don't need anybody to tell me anything. I know, you know. But all I'm trying to say is like, we have a pandemic going on, and they are targeting children with no fathers and no mothers, kids in children's homes, you know, care, as they like to call it. Care, yeah. There was a lot of care given to me when I was in the care system. Yeah, and I've never got the care bit right in the care system, let's be honest. So we'll just call them children's homes. So they put children into homes. And that's what it is. And it's no Tracy Beaker kind of homes, you know. They like they showed all the children that are doing okay in life and have parents and getting up every morning, getting their breakfast made and getting their school clothes all pressed and ironed and cleaned and everything ready for them, and money for lunch. And these kids would come home from school and see these amazing happy kids in a children's home in Tracy Beaker. You know, and that's the system, that's the establishment, that's the beginning of the silencing. That right there, you know. And now we find ourselves in a situation now where they're wanting to bring out Islamophobia laws because they don't want people saying bad things about the people who are raping our children. You know, but they don't want people talking about it. They don't want you being warned about it. They want to keep on doing what they're doing to this country without you having a clue how much danger your children are actually in the nice safe area you have right now. You know, nobody's leaving, are they? Nobody's paying any attention to anything right now. Everybody's skint. Everybody's skint. Everybody's struggling. Sorry, guys. Everybody's skint and everybody's struggling. Nobody's paying any attention to anything that's going on, apart from what's going on right in front of them. You know, and every single man and woman in this country should know what's going on in these children's homes. Every man and woman in this country should know how children from the most vulnerable families and the most vulnerable situations in life are treated. You know, when did we become a society where we didn't care about the kids that nobody cares about? When did we ever become that society when we're just glad that everything's alright in my house? You know, it's not my kids. You know what I mean? Maybe now that this is happening to our kids because you didn't pay any attention to it in the 60s and 70s. You know, I'm not talking to my community, I'm talking to other people who happen to come across this video. You know who I'm talking about. He's never done nothing about it then, like, you know what I mean? And it was all kids from care, vulnerable children, getting taken the top of the pops. You want to go and see Jimmy Savile? You know? They went round these places and they give them free tickets. You know? They knew exactly what children they needed to have to do what they needed to do. And we all know that. You know, it's just like, what's going on, guys? You know, is this how we're going to treat the kids that don't have parents? The poor children in this world have been born and lose their parents through cancer or drug addiction or alcoholism or a car crash. And they don't have anybody else. They have no aunties, uncles or brothers to take them. There's nobody there. So they become a ward of court. That's the name it's called, a ward of court. That's what I was, made, a ward of court. And that's when the government have complete control over you and your life. And they can send you anywhere. And I was in places I have no clue about. No clue about. I was in a place in Edinburgh where a guy beat the life out of me in a flat. Just moved from Northern Ireland and nobody can tell me anything about it, but I can remember everything. I can remember the Bay City Rollers painting that was on the wall. I can remember the, I think it might have been Wester Hills, you know. I can remember going into the Edinburgh and climbing up a big tower and getting a certificate for it. I can't say that word, but you know what I'm talking about. And I got that, a bit of paper saying you climbed this, all these steps, you know. So yeah. No clue who these people were. They left me in the house on my own, you know, and I climbed out the window and just went out to play because I was a go out to play kind of kid. And I got a terrible beating for that. And then the next thing I know, I'm back in Northern Ireland, but there's lots that you don't remember. This is the thing, you know. There's an awful lot that I don't remember. And it's very, very strange because I've got a very good memory, you know. That's how I'm able to do these videos, because I retain a lot of information and I play about with it. I'm an overthinker. Solitary confinement. You know, if you're strong, if you're a strong-willed person and you know how to deal with it, you will come out a better man. Tommy Robinson will come out a better man because he's strong. He's stronger than me. A lot stronger than me. And if I can come out of solitary confinement and use it to my advantage, so can he. So can he. So here we have a situation, good guys and dolls, in the United Kingdom where we've got hundreds of thousands of children, mostly from care homes, mostly the most vulnerable children in our society, being systematically passed about and abused by men who have come into this country as guests. Looking asylum or refuge, I haven't got a Scooby-Doo why they're here. No idea at all why these men are here. Because they're driving taxis, they own kebab shops, they're doing quite well for themselves. So they are, you know. And these men are out. All the men that's committed all these horrendous crimes are all walking the streets where their victims are. And these guys are driving about in BMWs and Audis, while their victims are probably begging on the street, or in prison, or alcoholics, or drug addicts. Because what do you think's happened to them kids? What do you think has happened to the hundreds of thousands of children and these men absolutely destroyed? What do you think happened to them? What do you think they are now? 15, 20 years ago, they'll be in their 40s now, guys. What do you think they are? Why are we not hearing stories from them all? Why are they not out there? Maybe it's because they're not here any longer. Have you ever thought about that? Because you can bet your bottom dollar the government hasn't been looking out for them. You know, government don't care. 110%. Anybody that's getting angry and lashing out, the police just come, throw you in the ground, handcuff you and jail you. And then if you touch them, oh, it's an assault. That's what happens to these girls. You know, they get dragged screaming and kicking in the back of a van. And then on the way, you got about 4 officers claiming that she assaulted them. And then they take 6 months sick leave on a wee holiday. And the girl, originally a victim of these horrible, horrible human beings that came into our country, is locked up in prison while these guys are driving about in BMWs. If I was to make a film about this 40 years ago, people would have laughed at you. People would have just went, you know what I mean? A bit far-fetched. It's horrific. It's the most horrific thing I know. There's nothing more horrific than this to me. You know? The world wars and all that, you know, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine. Well, nothing compared to what we're going through. What you think, because like they're going to war. Soldiers are putting on battle stuff. They're going to war. Hamas know what they're doing. They knew what they were doing. The people in Palestine who support Hamas knew what they were doing. It's not like somebody sneaked into their country, snuck up and done this to them, and their government has stood by and let them. Can you understand the difference? You've got these children and the parents of some of these children and the relatives and the families, if they've got relatives and families, and then people like me who've got a wee daughter coming into this world, it's in this world, it's grown up in this world, And me being an older dad, not knowing whenever God's going to want me up there. How horrific. There's nothing more horrific than that. Men coming into the country, your government letting them in, and they just do whatever they want to our children, our most vulnerable children. And then they continue to live quite happily in the country where their victims are. And you're telling me there's something more horrific than that? Nah, I don't think so. Like I say, when you go to war, people know they're going to war. They know why they're going to war. A lot of these soldiers, a lot of these Ukrainians do believe, like, I don't know what they thought. Maybe it was like an Xbox game. And same for some of the Russians. And then they get there. Yeah, it's horrific what happens. But guys, you know. And I know some of these guys didn't have a choice. I know that. I know. That's Zelensky. Sorry, guys. I know that Zelensky was pulling people off the street and that. I get that, you know. But it's this is the most horrific thing in my eyes to happen ever in my life that I've ever seen, without a doubt. And you've got to ask yourself, and I know most of you are like, yeah, you're bang on actually. You know, that act, when you put it like that, the reality of it, when you really think of the nitty-gritty of what happened to these children and who these children actually were in our society, then fuck me, man. Of course it's the most horrific thing that's ever happened to us. But the most horrific thing that ever happened to us, the government is going so quiet. And they're not actually that quiet, actually, are they? They're actually bigging that particular community up, you know, apologising because everybody's hating on them. Oh, I know it's really bad. We're going to bring out laws to stop them. I know that's terrible. They shouldn't be able to tell you off for doing bad stuff to children. I know we don't agree with it neither. We're really, really sorry. Do you forgive us? Will you still vote for us? We are sorry. Do you want to come to Windsor Castle? Tell you what we'll do. We'll put celebrations up. What celebrations? What are you talking about? Ah, decorations for Ramadan. No, like we do for Christmas. Okay. Okay then. Yeah, okay, we forgive you. So that's where we're at. That's what our government, that's what the Labour Party are doing. That's what Angela Rayner are doing. And like I say, guys, like I keep saying to you, these people have got to carry this for the rest of their lives. These people, families, their children and their grandchildren will always know what these people have done to their own people in Great Britain. Because the only people that support Angela Rayner, Yvette Cooper, Lammy and Stormer and Rachel from accounts, got to put her in, you know. The only people supporting them people are the people that are doing the most damage to this country. And yes, there is good people here. Yes, we know that. Lubna, Muslim from Pakistan. She doesn't say anything I'm not saying. She says exactly what I'm saying. She goes a lot harder than I am. She goes a lot harder than me. And she's saying that. She cannot believe the way our British government are acting towards her religion. She cannot believe the way the British government have acted towards Ramadan and how they've acted towards our own Christian festivals. A Muslim woman is absolutely devastated that lives in this country of what our government is doing. She is absolutely terrified. And I'm not exaggerating, that her children are being radicalised in an English school. Now get your heads around that for a wee minute. We have a Muslim woman from Pakistan who stays in this country, integrates and probably puts a lot more into this country than most of us. I'll be honest with that. I think she's got a good job in that, you know what I mean? And yeah, she's worried about her children being radicalised by Islam in an English school. And she's done videos about it, guys. Go and check her out. Lubna. Lubna. Lubna Talks. And that is where we're at. So the most horrific thing in our country, the government are rubbing it in our faces. You ask yourself, why? Jeez, it's like, why? Why are you doing this to us? Why are you creating so much hatred and division and not dealing with bad men who are coming into this country doing horrific things to children because they're not the same religion as them, which is a racial crime, which is even worse, you know. Why are they not being removed? Why are you letting them out of prison and then letting them go on to universal credit because of the mental health conditions they've had since they've been in prison? Yeah, they're getting adult disability, PIP, because of the mental health they've got because they've been in prison. It's there. It's all there to be researched, guys. You know, more or less that'll be what it's all down to. You know, that's what they'll say. You know, or whatever they've been through. You know, whatever they come up with, whatever excuse they can make. But we know the figures of how many people don't work. We know who's at the top of that. You know, the same men I pointed out in that video this morning are the top of the list of the people that come to this country that do not work and are receiving benefits. So you can bet your bottom dollar, all them men in the picture I showed you this morning in that video are all receiving benefits in this country. So no, they're not being deported. No, they're still here. Not only that, but your tax dollars are keeping them here. Your tax dollars are helping them build houses probably in their own country, helping them build little shops and where they're going to learn more of our most vulnerable and keep on doing it because they're not going to change. These type of men who are attracted to these type of children will never change. It's in their culture. They say this is what they do. It's crazy, guys. I'm just changing my hand. Arm's getting sore. It's a long video, isn't it? But yes, it's just for you guys. This is just this shows how mad this fucking place is. You know what I mean? How crazy it is. You know, it's like, you know. And do you think it's because it's our most vulnerable? Because we know our most vulnerable don't come from affluent areas. We know they don't come. The children in children's homes are not from rich kids' families. They're all from poor families. So do you think it's because of that? You think it's because the upper class are in charge and it's the working class kids that are being affected? Do you think we could prove that? Because if we could prove that, then we would make sure they would never get into power again. Why do the rich get into power? How long do you think the rich are going to still get into power? How long do you think the people of this country are going to keep voting for these snobs? These private schoolboys who care nothing for our children. Oh, Jenrick's coming out now and he's giving it all the big licks about the boys and, you know what I mean, and how bad it is and all that. But where were you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago? Why are you just popping up now and getting on like that now? You know what I mean? You've been in power for I don't know how long. You've been stumped about all this. You haven't opened your mouths about it. You want to be inclusive and diverse. You know what I mean? All of a sudden you're like, oh, the big boy, oh, look, he's speaking up for us. Oh, the Conservatives, oh, maybe they've changed their mind. And then you got Nigel Farage just talking absolute nonsense just to get a bit of power so he can hand it over to that other header he's with. You know, this you can't make it up. These are the snobs. This is the private schoolboys that are absolutely destroying our country. And we're all sitting here going, what? So, you know, it's down to you now. It's down to the people. Don't vote them in. If you've got a private schoolboy, if you've got a snob, if you've got a millionaire, you can bet your bottom dollar he's not going to be invested in our most vulnerable kids. And that's how we go forward now. We do not vote unless we know them men are going to look after our vulnerable kids and do what needs to be done. Simple as that. Simple as that. And a lot of people can hum and ha and all the rest of it. And yeah, things will change. Things will change. There's nothing going to stop it changing. You know, because it's unforgivable what's happened. The most horrific thing has ever happened in our lives under the watch of the Labour Party and the Conservatives. Our children have been forgotten and the men who tried to raise awareness have been silenced. Not only that, but there's one man lying in solitary confinement right now. Unforgivable. Unforgivable, and the people will never forget them for this. No working class men up there that's done this. This is the snobs, this is the rich, this is the millionaires and the private schoolboys. These are your DPPs and your judges. This is who this is. Starmer is he's a prosecution. What do you expect? What do you expect? You can't expect men like that to act like men. You need real men to act like men. You need real men and real women, you know. You need real men and real women who are standing out against the face of everything and saying the things that need to be said, no matter how damaging it is to their own reputation. That's the real men. Real men don't take orders from nobody else. Real men who get elected in power by the people, will work for the people and not against the people. Real men won't allow foreigners to come into this country and just rip the piss right out of us all by doing things to our children and taking all our money off us in universal credit and PIP. Real men would never let that happen. The only real men that can run this country are the working class men, the men that have suffered, who've seen people suffering on the streets, people who are living, or at least know people that are living, have family that are living in our areas and know exactly what we're going through, because we're the only ones that are suffering. We are the only ones that are really suffering. It's the working class. So why aren't the working class in power? Things will change, guys, and things will change quite simply because what has happened. It's as simple as that. It's the universe, it's the world, it's the way it is, you know. You keep doing something for so long and it doesn't work. It doesn't matter how much you love it, no matter how much you want it to work, after so long you're going to give up on it. It's the world we live in, guys, you know, it's the world we live in. So be ready, you know, be ready for that, you know. And, you know, at the same time we're trying to do that, we've got all these patriots squabbling, you know what I mean, you know. But that's another video. That's another video. Let's get this country sorted first, and then we'll clean house after that. You know, 110%. Yeah, the future's bright. So it is. The future is bright for us, guys. There's too many people awakening now. Too many people know exactly what's going on, and I do believe voting is the way forward. I do believe that. You know, and you know. Reform, let's be honest, they're nothing to be worried about. I do believe that. Deep down in my heart, they don't concern me. They really don't concern me. Are people going to vote them in to get Labour out? Most likely, yeah. Most likely. But that's when they're going to see a change. That'll be the final draw. That'll be the nail in the coffin. Whenever Reform get into power and they do what they're about to do, what I know they're going to do, that's when they're going to realise how much. Because you got to understand, we're never going to go away. You know what I mean? Whatever it is right now, the percentage, you know what I mean? I reckon it's probably about 50-50, but that's not good enough right now. We're never going to go away. We're going to grow and we're going to get bigger and we're going to keep taking people away from Reform as we go forward. It mightn't be enough, you know, it might not be enough. But the thing is, whenever Reform do get in, this is when the people that voted for Reform are going to find out the truth. They're going to find out the truth. And they're going to be more angry than us. Because they're the ones that are going to be sitting calling us far right and racist. And telling us that we're just horrible people. And we're just going to be standing here silently watching them as they realise that we were right all along. I'm Freedom Dad. And there's hope. There's always hope, guys, you know. Please believe me. And trust me. Take it from me, guys, right? This is an open invitation to any patriots. You're more than welcome to Northern Ireland. Arms are open. Arms are right open to these guys. And all you Celtic supporters and all you hardcore Roman Catholics, I'm quite sure the Irish will take you. The Republicans will take you, you know what I mean? That's if they can fit you in, man, because I think they're filling the place up with Hamas. And I'm not kidding you on, like, do not be surprised to find Hamas terrorists walking about the Falls Road just shortly, you know. And that's no joke. That is not a joke, and far from it. I know the relationship these guys have with Hamas. It's nuts. It's nuts. It's a romanticism. It's they're being used and they can't see it. They just can't see it. They just believe in their heart. They don't realise that the Palestinians were just using them because they were going up against the British, you know. And I do get that the Irish aren't stupid, and quite a lot of Republicans back in the day would have knew that, but they're probably dead now, you know. And then you've got all these headers that just believe that PLO, they were there for us, and they're going through what we're going through. No, you aren't. Nothing like it at all. There's no comparison. It's nuts. That's absolutely nuts even think like that. But that's what they want. That's what they're a small minority, a group of people, very small and getting smaller and smaller as we go on, you know. And, but like I say, guys, There'll always be a place for Christians where we are. Always remember that. Where I am is where there'll be Christians. It's as simple as that. And you're all welcome where I am. 110%. You know. I'm looking forward to catching up quite a lot of you, you know what I mean, this summer. Got a few things to sort out, but once I get myself sorted properly, I'm looking forward to doing a wee bit of travelling and that. And we'll see how it goes. But yeah, hopefully this is a not too bad wee video. I know it's not enough sad and all that, mum and dad stuff and that, but just trying to give you an idea of what it's like. You know, would you understand what it's like for these kids, who these kids were? You know, I've really got to try and come across like that, to try and get it across to people, because I'm sick of people just saying, oh, this amount of kids and that amount of kids and this that many thousand here and how many hundred there, and you know, and nobody's really thinking about who are these kids. You know, where are the parents of these kids? How did so many kids fall into the hands of these men? You know, why didn't they go to the police? Why did they keep going back? You know, now you know. Now you know. It's all there to be researched. It's all facts. It's no misinformation, you know. It's all 100% facts, guys. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, that's why I say it's the most horrific thing to ever happen in this country to us as citizens, you know. And even just, what way do you want to go this way? What way? Right, go. And even just as citizens, guys. Sorry for the sun. People watching it. Like I say, Northern Ireland, it's fear. It's fear. They're terrified. They're not putting signs up because they're racist. They're putting signs up because they're really feared. They want to protect their children. What man doesn't want to protect his children? You know? If the government are letting so many men in or doing so much damage to children, then they're not doing a very good job, are they? So whenever the government are saying, oh, we're going to bring in a load of refugees into your area, like, people are going, no, I don't think so, because you're not doing a very good job of this. Look what you've done to England. Can you see? It's you know, and it's not, I keep on saying this, refugees are welcome, but it's the wrong refugees that they're bringing in. We want the women and the children that are being persecuted in other countries. You know, Christians around the world are being persecuted. What's going on? You've got Muslim countries all around the world doing pretty good, so why are all the Muslims coming to Britain? Nothing makes any sense. It's a Christian country. Why would you want to come to a Christian country, turn it upside down and do so much damage to their children? The reason why they're coming here is because none of the Muslim countries want them. Even the Muslim countries don't want them because they're that mad. They're extremists. But now they're in England and they're there to stay. And their children will be getting born in 20 years' time. 4 or 5 children to each man. That's fact. I'm freedom dad. God bless every single one of you.